Having arrived in Washington late yesterday afternoon, we drove into Old Alexandria village on the outskirts of Washington. Making an early start this morning, we drove back into the city, and our first stop was the Washington Monument, which you can see just behind me. We took an elevator right up to the top of this monument, which is some 555 feet high. Now the view from the top here, looking down towards the White House, and then coming in for a closer view, you can see the lovely fountains in the foreground. The President wasn't in fact resident at this time. And again from the top we look down towards the Lincoln Memorial with the long reflecting pool in the foreground. Zooming down towards it, again another close-up view. We can see a very impressive Greek-style frontage, and then zooming right inside the actual monument, you can see the statue of President Lincoln himself. Also in Washington, amidst all these lakes, is the lovely Jefferson Memorial. This is a memorial to the third President of the United States. Now looking along the Mall, a little bit into the sun, you might see on the top of Capitol Hill the very impressive and famous Capitol building. And another closer view. There's the House of Representatives on the left-hand side of the Capitol building and the Senate House on the right-hand side. Okay, so here we are on our second day in Washington, and today we're at the National Air and Space Museum of the Smithsonian Institute, so let's go on inside. Okay, and here on the inside we were one of the first in, so before the crowds gather, down to my left you can see the lunar landing module. Moving on round, you can now see the impressive display of rockets. In the background you might see the Soyuz link up with the Apollo spacecraft, and then panning around you come to the Space Lab. Further on round you come to the older aircraft like this Dakota and other early commercial aircraft. Across the river we came to Arlington National Cemetery, where you can see John Kennedy's grave with the ever-burning flame, and behind this simple grave is the General Lee Mansion. General Lee, of course, was famous for the Civil War. Now here's one of the guards marching in front of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. There again is the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Leaving the Holiday Inn Hotel in Alexandria Old Town, one of the most picturesque suburbs of Washington, we head north along the east coast of the States, along Interstate 95. So from Washington we travel through Baltimore and on up to the very old city of Philadelphia. Now, of course, Philadelphia is famous for the Independence Hall, viewed here from the historical park. The view from the other side shows these horse and carts. Again looking up to the famous bell tower, which once housed the Liberty Bell. For its own safety, this bell is now kept in its own housing just to the front of the hall. Leaving Philadelphia, we then head out, up Interstate 95 into the bustling city of New York, right along a stretch called the New Jersey Turnpike. Now this is 12 lanes wide in all, 6 lanes in either direction, an enormous road. And now in New York we drive along Broadway with all its theatres, right to the very heart of the city. Finally finding our way to our hotel on 9th Avenue and 57th Street. We're now standing in the courtyard of the 2 twin World Trade Center towers, so have a look above me for a really good view. Okay, the view from the top here is even more impressive. Now the amount of safety features they have are quite incredible. They have barbed wire and they have 2 full-time policemen just to stop you jumping off the top here. And that's little wonder when you scan your eyes right from the top down to the streets below. A very long way down. Now, of course, this is Chinatown, one of the most famous areas of New York, with all its colourful banners and shops. This banner hanging right across the street. Lung Fong Chinese Bakery, believe it or not. Now we come to an impressive helicopter flight right over the streets of New York. Now flying along the east coast of Manhattan Island, you can see ahead the lower Manhattan, which contains Wall Street and the Twin World Trade Center towers. Passing over Brooklyn Bridge. Now further out you might just see the Statue of Liberty. Right over Wall Street and the financial area. Looking down Manhattan towards mid-Manhattan with the second series of skyscrapers. There you can see the Empire State Building, and then this silver-topped building in the front, which looks a little bit like the Empire State, is the Chrysler Building. Behind that, the Pan Am Building. And then the Gulf and Western Building. Now this is flying right over Fifth Avenue with all the yellow taxi cabs. Now you can see the start of the vast expanse of Central Park, set right in the middle of all the skyscrapers on this very crowded island. And now as we start our descent down to the landing stage, you can see Lower Manhattan straight ahead. As we come in for a final touchdown. From the very southern tip of Manhattan Island, we then took this Circle Line ferry out into the harbour to the most famous statue of all, the Statue of Liberty, guarding the entrance to New York Harbour and the Hudson River. The combined height of the statue and pedestal is about 305 feet, and the statue itself is 151 feet high and weighs 225 tons. Now you can climb to the top of the crown, but since 1916 the flame, or the torch, has been closed due to its very, very narrow gangway. It's a very long, hot climb up to the top of that. And now looking back, you can see the famous skyline of New York. This is the view of the New York skyline from Brooklyn, from just underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, which you can now see coming into view on the right-hand side. This is the Rockefeller Plaza, just off Fifth Avenue, which is a very picturesque little walk. It includes an open-air cafe with a lovely statue, floodlit by lights of many colours. And now looking from the top of the Empire State Building down the length of Manhattan Island to the Twin World Trade Center towers. Now heading out of New York along its famous streets, we head north through the state of Pennsylvania and entering the state of New York again through Syracuse to Buffalo and across the border to the Canadian side of the Niagara Falls. The Canadian side is where you get the best view of the two falls. So looking downstream, coming into the right-hand side of the picture now, you can see the American Falls, the smaller of the two. And further upstream, you can see the Canadian Falls, or Horseshoe Falls as they're also known. You can see the Maid of the Mist boat in the bottom. The falls at present being rather obscured by the mist they're creating. Further downstream, the water, after coming over the falls, runs down the American Rapids, and into one of the most dangerous whirlpools in the world. Boating and bathing is totally prohibited in these waters. It's far too dangerous. You can see a cable car just above it, giving the tourists an overhead view. Now from the top of the American Falls, viewed from the American side of course, we can look down to the water below and across to the Canadian side, where the Maid of the Mist boat is now boarding. Getting on this boat, you now get another view of the American Falls from water's edge, from water's level. The base of the falls strewn with boulders brought down previous years ago. You can in fact go underneath these falls, and there are some intrepid tourists doing exactly that, covered with all their waterproof gear. There's the path going underneath this little offshoot of the falls. And here we are being buffeted about underneath the Horseshoe Falls.
Okay, we've just been beneath the Horseshoe Falls and so are absolutely soaking wet. We're now passing beneath the America Falls, which are just behind me.
Now here you can see the American Falls viewed from the Skylon, which is a large tower on the Canadian side. The falls are floodlit at night, as you can see, and the colours change every 10 minutes. So here's a view of the Canadian Falls changing from red to blue. Now flying down the east coast on this eastern tri-star, and on this map you can see exactly where we flew. From the Niagara Falls we flew directly south down the east coast to Florida and the city of Orlando, centered centrally in Florida. To SeaWorld, one of the many attractions of Orlando. And from the top of this tower, you can see panning round the beach below. And behind us, you can see the grandstand, just coming into view there, where they hold a spectacular water ski show.
Of the SeaWorld skiers. Ladies and gentlemen, we can see those skills demonstrated now in the water ballet. Ladies and in the water ballet, no one girl. Debbie, Ginger, Betsy, and Cody. Go ahead. No, wait a minute. On this peanut flyers. Hang on, Franklin. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Franklin Jr. We'll be seeing her today. It's called the back barefoot. It begins with a very difficult turnaround. Now check behind him over his shoulder. And down. Head down. Foot in. Acceleration. And kickoff. Whoa. Ladies and gentlemen, the back barefoot. Well, water skiers. With a step over turnaround, ladies and gentlemen, Del Chappone. Wonderful back.
There they go. How long can they hang on? That's the question right now. There is down. Wait a minute. We've got a winner out there, ladies and gentlemen. And he looks awfully good to me.
That will be testing his high diving skills.
Okay, two boats are leaving now with two pairs of skiers respectively, and they're gonna attempt to do some jumping. Okay, four of them all behind one boat, tearing along onto the ramp. That's an easy one. It just came straight back down again. A bit more difficult. This one they're going to turn round. Whoops, lost one there. Okay, now we have the SeaWorld skiers boarding for the finale, which is this magnificent pyramid. Ladies and gentlemen, the SeaWorld skiers. Coming in for a combined landing. Now moving on to another show. In an aquarium, we see this lovely killer whale, whose name, I'll leave it to you to tell them.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Shamu. Jason.
A slightly different form of water skiing, wouldn't you say? Random cowboy. Ah, two little baby killer whales. And now the whole family Shamu, the 2 baby killer whales and 2 dolphins, soaking everyone. Now this is Wet and Wild, a water playground in Orlando. And the first ride we went on was this enormous water slide, the largest outside Japan apparently. Here I am coming down, hitting the water very hard. It was called the kamikaze, and rightly so. It was bloody painful. Here's one of those wave-making machines with Martin, I think, trying to drown me. And so we leave our intrepid adventurers for a short break. Welcome back. Well, we rejoin our heroes in Orlando at the most famous place in Florida, Disney World, the vacation kingdom of the world.
We're now in the magic kingdom of Disney World, and behind me you can see the fairy castle, which forms the centerpiece of this fantastic magic kingdom. In Disney World there are some 5 lands. Now at the moment we're in Tomorrowland, and behind me you should be able to see Space Mountain. This is a terrifying roller coaster in the dark, and we've just been on it. It's quite out of this world.
Having been around Disneyland in California, of course, we knew most of the attractions in Disney World. So we concentrated our time on going around those attractions we had not previously seen. This is a quiet little spot just outside the Pirates of the Caribbean. And so, leaving our hotel in Orlando, Martin and Dad get in our car, the second hire car we used on this holiday, to head out eastwards from Orlando to the coast.
We're now on the extreme east coast of Florida at the Kennedy Space Museum. And behind me you can see all the rockets on static display. We're now just about to go on a tour of the centre, and so you'll see more later.
From the coach now, we're driving towards the Space Shuttle launch pad. The Space Shuttle, when launched, will come from that vehicle assembly building you can see there, along a very large concrete causeway towards the launching pad. Now the shuttle will be carried on these mammoth great Caterpillar tractors. They move at a speed of about 2 miles an hour and consume some 20 gallons of fuel per yard. So it's quite a snail's pace. Now driving in the coach towards the vehicle assembly building. And laid out in front you can see this Saturn V rocket laying on its side so that you can see all the different stages. And from the coach there you can see the rocket engines as we drive once again past the Vehicle Assembly Building, or VAB for short. Looking back you can see a Delta rocket launching pad. This is obviously a much smaller rocket.
We've now finished our tour of the Kennedy Space Center, and now we're all off down to Miami for a bit of a rest. Wow, and what a place to have a rest at the Fontainebleau Hilton on Miami Beach. Now, this is such a fantastic hotel. Let's just take a little tour around it, okay?
Looking from our bedroom, you can see there the Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico. And in front of us, one of the main wings of the hotel with its distinctive crescent shape. And there to the right, Collins Avenue. Here's the lobby of the hotel with those enormous pillars and magnificent chandeliers. one of the very extensive bars just off the lobby. Now we look outside to the hot sunshine around the pool. From outside you can see the other side of that crescent-shaped main wing of the hotel. And then right under the trees you can see a little restaurant of exactly the same name. And now out around the pool with everybody sunning themselves. This is an enormous curvily edged pool with an enormous rock outcrop in the centre. Right in the middle of that outcrop is the Lagoon Saloon bar, which you can get to from the swimming pool itself by going under one of those waterfalls. Moving on round to one of the two bars called Coconut Willie's. From Coconut Willie's, pulling back across the other side of the pool, you can see right into the centre of this large rock formation, right down into the Lagoon Saloon itself. Now looking out from the inside of the rock, through the waterfall, and here comes Dad wandering out into the pool itself. Here I come down a water slide, also hidden in the rock, followed pretty closely by Martin. Now this is one of the jacuzzis, or hot spa bars, with its own little waterfall. I think we can catch somebody out and watch them sunbathing. Even though we'd promised ourselves a rest in Florida, there were still so many things to see, including the Everglades National Park, right at the southern tip of Florida.
How many have you got in there?
How many? No, we've got quite a few. I don't know what the specific number is in this area. But over.
As you can see, the alligators get mighty close. Here's one just to the right-hand side of our path where we're walking. Mean-looking beast, isn't he? Now, panning across the Everglades, you can see the sawgrass over in the distance. All the Everglades is underwater. It's only 1 or 2 feet deep. And there, nestling right down under the sawgrass, is a little turtle. And perched high up on a branch, a locust. Hey, hey, none of that, none of that. Now, here we are on an airboat ride. Cutting engines for a minute, we have a visitor come up alongside the boat. Now we go racing across the sawgrass. Florida Keys, which is a long chain of islands at the south of Florida, we came across this Kawasaki jet ski center. They're really just motorized water skis. They handle just like motorbikes, which effectively is what they are. They've got a 250cc two-stroke engine, and then there's a throttle on the right-hand handlebar. The idea is to lie down in the water until you get up enough speed for the jet ski to support your weight. And then as you pull yourself up onto the ski, there you can see Martin is already kneeling on it, whilst I'm gaining just enough speed to pull myself up, first onto my knees, and then the secret is to stand on the thing. We managed it, but we just couldn't turn corners. But of course, here's a professional to show you how to do it. Also in the Keys, we went on this glass-bottomed boat out into the Gulf of Mexico to see some of the magnificent coral reefs. We are all looking down to the glass bottom below. With those sort of seas and looking downwards all the time, I think most of us felt pretty ill. But the sight underneath was quite magnificent, with all the beautiful formations of coral. You can see some antler coral there. The film just doesn't really bear justice to the beautiful colours underneath. There are quite a few shipwrecks as well underneath.
Sitting out in the sun here, it's really hot. It brings the sweat absolutely dripping off you. Well, all good things must come to an end, and we're flying back out to London tonight. Bye. Bye.